Hi, or good evening. Thank you all for coming. So anyone who knows me knows I love dogs and animals in general. Well, about 7 months ago, I got a dog from someone off the internet to find out they had gotten her from the pound about a month before that and had nursed her back to health, but couldn't afford to take her with them on their next move in a month. Which to me made me really happy because before I decided to get her, I had went to the pound to look for a puppy there, and it was nice to go up to each cage, and each one had a description if they were nice, mean, or got along with other dogs, and said how long they've been there. There was so much info, and I wanted to adopt literally all of them. Anyways, after I found out my dog was from the pound, it made me much happier that I, in a way, had helped my dog leave the shelter and go on to live a happier life, and she's literally the best thing. Today we will discuss, first, the negative effects on an animal in an animal shelter, secondly, the positive effects on an animal in a shelter, and third, positive effects of adopting an animal versus breeding animals. The credibility for the info where I found most of it is on the internet from various sites about animal shelters, even including the PETA website. We all know that animal shelters is an animal's gift from God, not only because they aren't on the street anymore, but because they're taken care of. First, before we go into the positive, let's talk about the negative effects of an animal shelter on an animal and in general. First off, did you know that 3 million to 4 million animals a year that end up in the shelters are euthanized? Put down. And the decision to euthanize them or not is left up to the director in charge of the animal shelter. There are over 150 animal shelters in the U.S. Animal shelters are overcrowded, which leads to stressed out animals, diseases, and animals starting to get in fights with each other. Animal shelters take in 6 million to 8 million animals a year because there are a lot of no-kill shelters that don't euthanize animals. The shelters are overpacked, so they end up not taking animals, so they die in the streets, backyards, or other places. Animals housed in shelters tend to have behavior issues. Another cause of euthanizing is when animals are aggressive. Other various reasons for animals to be euthanized is because of their old age, diseases, and various reasons that are by the shelter's policies. Now that we're done with the negative effects, let's dawn on some of the positive effects animal shelters have on animals, or just in general. Positive effects animal shelters have on animals: they're in a safe environment with food and a place to live. When animals are in animal shelters, they are safe from ending up in a puppy mill. Most animals are already house trained. The most you'll have to do is probably clean up a couple messes because they aren't so used to your house and they are still getting familiar with their surroundings. If you have other animals, while the animal is in the animal shelter, they will learn to have socialization skills. It's also good that some of them are already trained because if you have a busy schedule and don't have time to train them yourself, they're already trained. Another great thing is if you're looking for a purebred, 10 to 15% of animal shelters have purebred animals, so you don't have to go to a breeder and pay even less. The work staff can help with you and help to find the exact animal you want. Spaying and neutering is usually done before you take the animal home, so that's more money you save for later on down the road. You can talk to them to get more in detailed background of the animal that you are adopting. They can tell you where the animals were, for example, came from the streets or was given by a family that couldn't take care of it themselves. You can also find out what the animal likes or dislikes. When adopting an animal, the neutering, microchipping, and shots are all part of the rehoming fee. Even if you can't adopt for some reason, you can still donate or volunteer to help out around the animal shelter and still contribute towards helping the animals find homes. Also, another great thing about shelters is they give you the chance to reunite pet owners with their pets when they run away or get lost. Animal shelters also do a background check to make sure that you are capable to own any animals that you adopt. Now let's talk about the benefits of adopting a pet versus breeding. The benefits of adopting an animal: you're saving an animal's life from being euthanized. When you adopt from a shelter, you're pretty much saying you don't support irresponsible breeding. You can be part of the 20% of people who adopt from animal shelters. You'd be a good example to others for saving a precious life. You'd be spreading the word about all the animals in shelters so more people can go and adopt. You're giving an animal a second chance at finding a home when someone else couldn't love them. The animal you choose will love you forever and unconditionally. You have to think that at one time that animal was a burden to someone else and you changed its life. Did you know about 62% of households have pets, and about 21% of them are from cats or from shelters? How breeding is bad. Puppy mills, commercial kennels where animals are bred in order to sell them for money, and they abuse the animals. They kill the mother because she's no longer able to breed and deprive the animals' babies the right to learn normal behavior. The percentage of animals in animal mills are 64.5% is dogs, 18% is cats, and 25% is other animals. Breeders who breed their animals for money add further to the pet overpopulation, and therefore euthanizing rates are higher, which also leads to more animals just left out on the streets or animals put into fighting rings or owners who don't treat them well, which makes putting them into a dangerous place of living even higher. even put out on the street. People who are also breeding are getting more money because the voice of the animal rights movement is dying down. Now let's review the highlights. Today we talked about why you should adopt a pet rather than getting one from a breeder. We looked at first the negatives of an animal shelter and the impact of the shelter on the animals, from how many animals are cut down a year to how many actually end up in the shelters. Secondly, we looked at the positives of an animal shelter and the impact of animal shelters on animals, including how they have a safe environment to live in with food, and most animals are already trained, plus all the costs you can cut with adopting. Lastly, we talked about all the advantages to adopting a pet. You can change the animal's lives forever and have the most amazing love from an animal, versus when breeders breed, they put the animal's life at risk and into a more dangerous environment. So in conclusion, I'd like to leave you with some words from an unknown author to think of when the thought of adopting passes through your head. You're saving two lives, the one you adopted and the one taking its place.